Well, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about XRP today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's get into it. We're sitting at about $3.1 right now, $3.10.5 right now. We had this kind of unusual consolidation phase, right? And it reminds me, the endings of it reminds me of Bitcoin's kind of diamond top that it broke out of. And the behavior is even similar to a diamond pattern. But overall, it's kind of this just giant triangle. But it's a very tight triangle, is it not? You can kind of see it. It almost looks like a boomerang, kind of, right? It almost kind of looks like a boomerang. And the price action, you could call it the boomerang pattern because the price action literally came back to you. You know what I mean? But it behaves very similar to a diamond. That's just a little context, a little something that I noticed. I don't know, right? Something I've noticed too. Take this with a grain of salt. It's not 100% guaranteed, but I've noticed it across the markets a lot recently. There's a lot of this going on. A lot of this. And whether you break out to the downside or you break out to the upside, a lot of these like very tight, very volatile and tight, wound symmetrical triangles, they get to their apex point, the very like last bit that they can get to, and that's when they break out. I've noticed that a lot. So just pay attention to that going forward, because I've noticed that on genuinely like 9 out of 10, maybe even 10 out of 10 charts, man. There's, and not recently, but just throughout, maybe recently, I don't know, recently and over the months, right? There's throughout this cycle, there's been moments like this where we get these very refined points, and the breakout is always spectacular. It's always up or down. It's always very high velocity. So just keep that in your back pocket, maybe for another time when we do consolidate. I'm trying to see if there's another example of that. We don't really have one here, and that's okay, whatever. Anyways, guys, talking about where we're gonna go, because I do believe we're moving up higher here. I do believe this old boomerang is going to exceed just coming back to us. We're not going to catch it. It's going to slip, and it's going to go the other direction. I think it's going to go higher, definitely higher. If we look at this relative high here to the relative low, you're finding support, or actually, I mean, you broke above your golden ratio, found support at the 0.5. Kind of abnormal fib behavior, but whatever. XRP's in abnormal price areas right now, right? It's going to go very immediately, probably by the end of this week, you'll see XRP worth $363 to $394, maybe even above $4 by the end of this week. By the end of this move, you've got a lot higher prospects in mind. Okay, the 4-hour RSI, I just want to look at this real quick before we move on. 4-hour RSI, you got pretty oversold, didn't you? That was very oversold. Now you are holding this 50. You're holding it as support without this little blemish here. If you look at this, it's kind of like you've got this nice uptrend going here with higher lows and higher highs, just with a little slip here. And I want to call it a slip because if you look at that in the price, that's essentially what it was. It was a slip. As soon as it happened, it was over. You're back here. Literally, if you did the same thing with the price, you just took out that blemish, it's as if you were consolidating in this range the whole time. You know what I mean, right? And even back here, you acted very similar to that. So I think you're in a bullish posturing overall. I think that you do look like you want to go higher. As long as you're finding support at the area you're finding now, right here at about $3.10 at the golden ratio, I think you're fine. Even if you go lower, as long as you're finding higher lows, I suppose you're fine. And of course, I don't expect you to go lower, but even if you do see a lower low, inevitably XRP will see new all-time highs. It's coming. I wouldn't expect that it goes down from here, but even if it does, it's not the end of the world, okay? It just means that things are going to be put off to a later date, and that happens sometimes. I don't anticipate that, though. I don't anticipate that to happen, okay? You look at this relative high here to this relative low here. By ways of this fib, sorry to keep clearing my throat, guys, but I'm an asthmatic. It's just part of it. Most asthmatics, at least to my knowledge, they don't have to clear their throat all the time like I do. It's not a normal symptom, but it is a normal symptom. It's just not a common symptom, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know, but if anybody's wondering why I'm just clearing my throat all the time, I'm not sick. I've got a chronic illness, I guess, but I'm okay. It's just I'm sorry it's annoying if it is annoying, but it's just part of it, man. You got to deal with it sometimes. I will try to mute the mic to clear it at times as well. But anyways, enough of that. $3.10. I'm just letting you know who I am, man. I'm C-Zar. I'm an asthmatic, and that clearing my throat happens sometimes. Okay, so we're here. We're at about $3.10. $3.77 would be the minimum target that we would expect just based off of this move alone, with how you're consolidating and everything. But I don't know, man. I don't know. This had some very bullish upbringings. I have a hard time believing you're going to stop here. So if I have a hard time, you're going to stop here. Hard time believing that you're going to stop here. This is the height of your primary target zone. The next area would be the 1886 to the 2618. Something between 576 to 422. We're at $3.10 now, right? So that would be the next area to go to. Likely, if we break through the 1618, the golden ratio like this, and we're being constructive, the way that we're doing this here, I would expect that this next move is not the same as this last move, right? This was essentially just all the way up, nonstop, no breaks, right? Maybe you took one day as a break, but that was it, right? It was very nonstop move up. I would expect this next one, wherever you end up, whether it's 576, whether it's $8.08, whether it's higher than that, and I think that you could go higher than that by the end of this move. Of course, I don't anticipate that you will, but you could. I personally expect that this move ends, somewhere around 576 to $7.11, somewhere in this area. Actually, but we haven't gotten to that yet, right? We're kind of progressively getting there. That's how I like to do things. I expect. And as we're progressing, we're explaining this move better. I expect it to not be as big as this. I expect it to be maybe as big as this on an overall move perspective, or maybe just a little bit smaller, but I also expect it to be slower. And already we can see that, right? Already we're doing things a little bit slower. So I would anticipate that if the final destination was up in this area, it's not going to happen like this, but rather, it's going to be a work in progress up there. I don't think it'll take until April to get there. I do expect that it'll be by the end of February, if not by the end of March or middle of March. So this bubble is actually very appropriate. But again, not just a straight up move. It's going to be meticulously fought for and worked for. And if that's the case, likely we don't stop at this area, but maybe we have like a little checkpoint. Maybe XRP does have a breather at 377, pulls back to 346, then it moves up to 422, then it pulls back to 377. Then maybe you do this stair-stepping kind of formation, which is very common whenever it comes to fibs, right? You could do something like that. You don't have to stop at every single one of these lines. That's not what it means. You haven't stopped at every single one of these lines on your way up anyways, right? That's not what I would expect. But being at the 1272 here, if you were to break through the 1618 on this next run up, likely you don't stop at the 1886, but you go to the 2272. So then, potentially what we could look for here, if you're at $3.10, would be a move anywhere in the approximation of like $4.23 to $4.97, somewhere in this area. You probably stop as you did here for a day or two or a week, whatever. Actually, this is on a daily time frame, so this would be a couple weeks to be completely fair. Maybe that's what you do here. And then for the end of February, you have that finishing finale. Maybe it's more meticulous than that. Maybe you stop somewhere in this zone and you pull back and then you move up and then you pull back and then you move up to here, and then it's the end of March that you're up in this area. But whether it's the end of March or it's the end of February, beginning of March, however it looks, I believe you are going to get to this area. I believe that you're going to get to 576 to $7.11. I believe that definitely. If you get above 576, just understand 576.5. Let's just say if you get above $5.77 on any given day, if you close above there, to me, that means that 645 or higher is inevitable. If you close above 577, if you close above 577 on any given day, at that point, that tells me the move is not over until 645. That might not seem that significant, but for anybody who's trying to time the top, this little bit of a 10%, 11% difference of an edge of a minimum expectation to acquire, that can help. Right? Because wouldn't you rather, if it goes to $7.11, wouldn't you rather sell at 645 than 576? I mean, obviously you'd rather sell the top, but only a couple people are going to sell the top, right? If you look at the top price, not everybody sold there, right? A lot of people, most people, in fact, they actually probably sold the bottom. Most people don't sell the top. So if you want to sell the top, understand you have to outbeat everybody, in which case you should have limit orders set up there already probably. But you're not probably going to sell the top, so getting near the top is what we're trying to do, right? That's accepting reality for what it is, getting near the top. 645. If you have the expectations, I'm paused on this moment here, or this train of thought, because I think it's actually very, very important for any new investors or traders to understand, right? If you are trying to catch the top, you're going to catch it sometimes, rarely. It's going to happen. 1 out of 10 times, 2 out of 20, more than that, you know. But you're going to miss good selling opportunities the other 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, 19 out of 20 times, right? You're gonna miss good selling opportunities. And if you just, instead of thinking I need to sell at the exact top, I need to buy at the exact bottom, if you're okay, you just accept I'm okay with buying around the low and it going lower and I can buy more. I'm okay with selling around the high. And if it goes higher, I can keep some and sell more. As long as you're okay with the idea of selling around the lows and around the highs, then you're not going to have anxiety over this whole notion that you have to be perfect and you're only winning if you're selling the exact top, right? And you're less likely to make mistakes that way, because this is not a perfected craft that we have, my friends. It's a very general kind of idealistic craft that we're forming here. So whenever I tell you closing above $5.76 gives us a little bit of an edge, that's nice, because it helps you sell around that high. You want to sell around the high. You don't want to sell if the high is at $7.11. You don't want to sell here, because if you wake up the next day and it's up here, that's going to make you feel some type of way. That might make you want to get back in. So of course you want to sell near the high, as close to it as you can. But if you just try to focus on that exact point, you might miss it more often than you actually find it. So again, this idea of just generalizing things, if we close above 576, that doesn't mean that we're going to close exactly at $7 or $9 or whatever. All that means to me is that we would likely at least achieve 645, 646 or higher, okay? And it's not that big of a difference, but it's the little things, man. It's the little things that matter in life and everything. As my I used to do karate, guys. My sensei used to say, it's the little things. It's the little things. It really is. It really is. Find your life getting better when you start appreciating the little things, my friends. But enough philosophizing. Let's finish up with why I think we're going to go here beyond just the obvious deep extensions here. Okay. So remember, 576 to 711. That's kind of our target area, as defined by that fib there. If we look at the last cycle high here to the last cycle low, our next fib extensions that we could expect to see would be, and likely with this consolidation phase, by the way, right here, up here like this, I don't think that we stop at the 1414 at $4.34. I don't think we stop there. The next minimum target would be the 1618, which is at $6.41, right? And I said if we broke above $5.76 or we closed above 577, the next target would be 646. This golden ratio is at 642, essentially. That's congruence. We like to see that. The only next target that's acceptable after that would be $10.71. So it gets a little bit of a wider range here, but it still agrees with the range that we had just established previously, right? Which I believe was from this high to low, maybe? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Was it? Come on. No, it wasn't. But that high to low kind of lines up in this area too, but on a lower perspective. But I don't know if that's going to be as respected. Anyways, looking at the weekly RSI, bouncing off of the overbought zone like this, very powerful signal. I expect it's going to do great things for you. Yes, by the end of this move, you will probably have bearish divergence. You will probably have either a lower high in your RSI, or, mark my words, sometimes this happens. Instead of bearish divergence, it's just building every week, week by week. People are like, there's bearish divergence. It's going to make people sell too early, and it's never actually confirmed until you get a red week. Then it grows just above this high. Week by week, it makes everybody think there's bearish divergence. Then it finally negates the bearish divergence, and that's when it tanks. Just understand, my friends, all I'm trying to say is likely on the weekly RSI, we're going to see, right now you're at an 83 read, likely you'll see a 90 or higher read. I know 83 to 90 doesn't sound that close, but I'm telling you, you're at an 83. From here at $3.10, if you moved it up to 641, that's what it would take to get you above 90 on the weekly RSI, right? It's gonna take a lot. So don't be worried about the distance here, right? This is actually very strong readings. You want these readings. But mark my words, you're either going to top off with a slightly lower high, something that is above the 90 on the weekly RSI. So that's a good metric if you're looking to sell. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but if you see the weekly RSI readings, I have it set to a 10. Okay, they come at 14 by default. If you want to set up an RSI, go to tradingview.com. It's free. Type in relative strength index right here. You click on that thing there. Relative strength index. It'll look like this. It'll look ugly. I don't like that. I refined mine. You can refine yours. Just double click it and then just get rid of the MA, get rid of some of the useless stuff. Really, the input's what you're focusing on. You want to put it to a 10. If you want to do it the way that I have it the same way, okay? Even if the MA is on there, don't worry about it, that yellow line. Just worry about the actual RSI itself. But anyways, I'm getting aside from myself. I don't know what word to use. When you get above the 90, that's likely when we're going to sell off. And I'm going to take it a step further. I anticipate you're going to get a higher high in your RSI, and that's when you're going to sell off. And likely, you're at $3.10 now, $3.11, moving up a little bit, hell yeah. Likely, you will be, I think, above 641, but below, probably you'll be below $10. If this is a bull flag, let's finish it up on a bullish note, low to high here. If this is a bull flag and it's respected as such, and your measure move is met, technically, that'd be good for a move to $11.80. And that actually does fit within a very acceptable range to do if you get above 641. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying just because you get above 641 that $10.71, $13.31, $11.80. I'm not saying that this zone is promised if you get above 641. I'm just saying it becomes more likely, more acceptable, and beyond what it already is acceptable or likely to achieve, because it does have a bull flag. It does have very bullish kind of conditions that would allow for that. But personally, I am expecting that XRP probably stops around 641 to $7-8, somewhere in that range, something above this orange line, but just a little bit, and probably not close to this purple line. But if you do get close to this purple line, the argument would actually, there'd be a better argument to be made that you probably do hit $11 instead of stopping at 1071. Anyways, guys, I think I've made my point. I think I've said everything I need to say. Weekly RSI looks bullish as hell, man. Watch everybody get it wrong over the weeks. They're going to talk about the bearish divergence. They're going to warn you, and you're going to be like, I don't care. Because we know, even if there's bearish divergence, it's not confirmed until you get a red week. It's not confirmed. Stay with me. It's not confirmed until there's a red week, right? It's not confirmed. I want to try and find an example of something that I'm talking about here, right? I mean, this is a good example, right? Lower high here, and you had, on this week when you closed higher, you had bearish divergence here, but then the next week you kept growing, and then the next week you kept growing, right? The week after you had bearish divergence, you grew 56%, and then the following week you grew another 49%. Imagine selling at the first instance of bearish divergence that grew for 2 more weeks after that, right? There's one here, perfect example of what I'm thinking could happen, right? You get a higher high. There was bearish divergence on this move at the lows before it got to this high. There's bearish divergence, but it kept growing. It kept growing, right? Here's your high to high here, higher high. It kept growing, and only after you negated the bearish divergence, that's when you topped and then you sold off, which is kind of what I'm anticipating to happen now. The reason why I'm anticipating it to happen now is because I bet everybody who can read a chart is going to think they're super smart identifying this bearish divergence. And then they're going to feel super dumb whenever it negates itself. And that happens all the time, right? It's only, divergences tend to only play out if nobody's paying attention to them. But if everybody's paying attention to them, then they tend to negate themselves. And then when everybody's like, oh, I don't know what that means now. Well, then it means exactly what you thought it would mean. You got caught off guard. And now you don't have the game plan. I don't know, man. I'm rambling at this point. I got nothing else for you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. XRP's going somewhere, likely above $6, likely even above $7, as high as $11 to $13 by the end of this month, or by the end of February, if not sometime in the middle of March, is what I'm thinking. Hit that like button, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.